Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. It's time to wake the fuck up, people. On today's show, I'll be speaking with Ethan Rymiszewski, QHHT practitioner and owner of Sacred Soul Works. Welcome, Ethan. I'm happy to have you joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lori.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So, Ethan, what exactly is QHHT?
So QHHT is Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, and it's a form of regression therapy, meaning that, we can go to past lives or other lives, I like to call them, because, as we know, all time is happening right now. So with that, the main purpose of these sessions is to come directly in contact with what Dolores Cannon calls the founder, the subconscious. In the wider, spiritual community, it's called the higher self. But for the layperson, it can be known as that part of ourselves that is connected to God or the divine spirit, whatever you're comfortable calling it.
Okay. So how exactly does that work? I mean, what's the process, if you don't mind sharing that?
Yeah, no, definitely, for sure. So I always inform all my clients who are even just looking into QHHT, the Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, how big of a commitment it truly is, because there's a lot that goes into it. And there's a lot that is required of the client to really ensure the desired results, right? And so even before they come to the session with me, it is their responsibility to make a list of questions for their higher self or their subconscious. And this list of questions can range from, health and wellness to ailments and diseases that they are trying to receive just relief from. And also, what their purpose is, specific details of relationships and why they're playing out the way they are. So just a lot of, general curiosity, and also things that could be more more detrimental to their life that's taking place at current. So to make that list of questions is a big process, and for some people that can be challenging because of the pain they may experience while going through that. So to be able to give yourself enough time to do that is the first big commitment. And then on the day of the session, the client comes in, they fill out their paperwork. I have an intake form that just goes over everything, just gathering some information that I look over before they come into my office. And then I sit in conversation with all of my clients for at least 2 hours, usually closer to 4. And then after that, we use the restroom. Of course, both of us have to at this point, just to make sure that when they get into the hypnosis, they can really relax, because that's when their blood pressure starts to decrease and they start to enter a state of hypnosis right when they start to close their eyes, because it really is that easy. And the hypnosis portion of the session is about 2 hours, and that's where everything is audio recorded. And I can't stress it enough to my clients how important it is to go back and listen to that recording, because every time they go back and listen to that recording, it's going to be reinforcing everything that took place during that session to their subconscious. So they don't have to be actively engaged when they're listening to that recording. They can be doing the dishes or drifting off to sleep at night. But it's very, very important that they listen to that recording. I say at least once a week for the first 3 months. However, It's different for everyone. And yeah. So that's what a session looks like. And we can get great results with those sessions. So that's what's exciting to me.
Yeah, and I mean, that sounds like a lot of work on your end. Well, not necessarily work, but it's a big time commitment.
Definitely. Yes.
Wow. So now, what types of situations would this form of hypnosis be most beneficial in? Sounds like
So
it kind of goes all over the place, right? It could
yeah,
be,
and that's what's so great about QHHT, and that's why I have stuck with the modality for such a long time, because it really is so it's very versatile. And people that may not even necessarily be on a spiritual path, but it's a last resort, it ends up igniting something within them that leads them down that path. So um to be able to come into union with something that is beyond yourself, or something that you think is beyond yourself, and realizing that you can embody that throughout every single day, is really what QHHT does. And from that place, you can transcend physical ailments, day-to-day hardships, because you have an understanding that there's a greater purpose to all of it. And with specific ailments, for example, we find that everything that takes place within the body is happening and taking place because we're not paying attention to the messages that our higher guidance team is trying to get to us. So what better way than to make it manifest in the body, right? Because then you're really going to have to stop and look.
sure. It sounds a lot like the Louise Hay. She did that, You Can Heal Your Body, and
Yes. Yeah.
how that's connected to, certain emotional issues, and that how it does manifest in the body. So you're able to help people to actually clear this stuff so that they can then begin the healing process.
So it depends. With every client, it's different. Some clients really receive instantaneous relief from whatever they're dealing with, whereas other people, it may take some more time and
Okay,
dedication on their part. So it's really
sure.
a good stepping stone for somebody that's looking for any kind of healing, whether it be interpersonally, emotionally, or physically.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. So now, do you use this practice in conjunction with any other healing modality, or is this your primary?
So this is what I primarily do. I do offer other services, but not in conjunction with QHHT, just
Okay, so it's a
because, yeah,
it's a
yeah,
standalone.
yeah, exactly. And of
Gotcha.
course, there's different approaches that I can take with different clients depending on their specific needs, but it does stand alone. Yes.
Okay. Wow. Can you share any major breakthroughs that you've facilitated, like, without violating your client's privacy? Is there
Oh,
anything that you
definitely.
can share? Okay.
Definitely. I've worked with a lot of people that are dealing with grief, specifically on those that have passed before them, and just trying to receive counsel and clarity around that has been really big. So that's something that's more emotional, but being able to see somebody's loved one come in and tell them to forgive someone if they were hurt, and that led to their death, right? So that's really big to witness that before me, watch that person come over from the spirit side and counsel their loved one. That
Wow.
that was absolutely fascinating. And to get the feedback from the clients after the session, right? That's so fulfilling.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And also I've had people with physical ailments, such as like I had a lady with a brain tumor who she needed help with that, and it actually started to subside, and it wasn't really understood why it was subsiding. They were like, "Oh, well, okay, like that's interesting. Just keep doing what you're doing." And then
Wow.
I also like more simple pains too, though. It's not just for something that's like, don't get me wrong, it's not just for simple pains. There's also the extreme cases that it can be helpful to. So I had somebody who came to me from out of state, and they had chronic back pain since they were a child, and they had a really good job, but they found out that it was part of their plan to go to medical school. So they were like, all right, well, I guess that's the next step. So they found out what their next step in their journey on this planet was, and they also walked out of my office with absolutely no back pain.
That's phenomenal. That is
Yeah.
seriously, that is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and
And
those are just some of the ones that come to mind right now, but there's many.
wow. Well, as you know, obviously, I have had my own experience with QHHT with you as facilitator. And if you don't mind, I'd love to share that because it was
Yeah,
such a
please do.
huge thing for me.
And
So,
I want to preface before you start, I do want to preface. This was when I wasn't even a level 2 yet. This
no,
was
you,
when I
yeah,
was doing my first my first batch of sessions. So you probably we'll figure something out. But yeah, so let's just preface
li-
that with that.
yeah. I mean, literally, you were just starting when this
Yeah.
happened, but I had from the time I was just a child. I mean, I believe I was maybe 8 years old or something. I had this recurring nightmare, and uh, back in the day, we lived in a ranch. There was no basement or anything like that. So, and for some reason here in Michigan back then, we got a lot of tornadoes, or at least it seemed like we did. And so my parents would have me and my four siblings just crouch down on the floor in the living room, and they would tip the couch over on top of us. And then they would go and get in the shower, with a tornado. So
Right, right.
in this nightmare, I and my siblings are underneath the couch, but then all of a sudden I just have this sense that they're gone. And obviously there's nobody else under there with me. So I come out from underneath the couch, and just intuitively, I know that everyone is dead. And I look out the picture window, and marching up and down the street in our street used to flood all the time. But the flood it was blood. It was just filled with blood, and these people were marching up and down with red coats on, and they were carrying bayonets. And I had this nightmare over and over and over again for literally decades. And one session with you had the me that I was. I mean, I literally essentially, like, I dropped in. I don't want to really go into all that detail, but I dropped into on
Yeah.
the scene, and I knew that I was a man, and I had been stabbed in the back, and I was running away from this field where all these people were lying there covered in blood, and I knew that my family was among them. My whole family was dead again. And so I'm running away from this field into the forest, going to some little cabin where I knew this old woman was there. And I went in, and she, um, you know, began the process of patching me up or whatever. But we both knew that I was dying, and she kept trying to tell me that I wasn't, but I knew that I was. And you brought me out of it just before I would have passed away. But then at the end of our session, that the me that I was in that lifetime actually thanked you just for simply acknowledging that he existed, that I existed as that person. And I have not had that nightmare since.
Wow.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just crazy,
Yeah,
absolutely
and
crazy.
it's a very powerful modality. And that's the thing, if we have the integrity to practice as Dolores Cannon did, with the intention that she held while helping people, that's really all that's needed, is that one session.
Yeah. Well, that for me was mind blowing. I
Yeah.
mean, literally, I'm going to be 56 years old tomorrow. So you're talking, almost like what, 40 something years, of having a nightmare like that. And boom, one session, one QHHT session with you, and that it's gone. That was it.
Right, right. Yeah.
So absolutely amazing. So, what do you feel is the greatest benefit of undergoing one of these sessions?
So of course, any type of healing is of course, miraculous and just phenomenal to witness, both, as a practitioner and also for that person who's receiving that healing. I think the greatest benefit of QHHT, however, is to be able to come in contact with your subconscious, because that is the part of us that is beyond this earthly experience. It's beyond the game that we signed up to come and play.
Sure.
So to be able to connect with that on a deep level and start to realize how the answers just flow through you when you're connected to that, I think is beyond profound to be able to extend and help facilitate for others. Because then, they can go throughout their day, and if they find that inner stillness within themselves, they can reconnect with that at any time they choose to. And I say that because they felt it during their session. They felt that connection. So
Right.
it's almost like that pathway has been laid and it's been primed. So now to commit to yourself to listen to that recording will also assist in really coming into contact, into integrating this greater aspect within all of us.
Sure. And I would imagine, because each session is so very, very individual and personal to, the person that's undergoing the hypnosis, that the benefits would also be just as, different.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, it's different for everyone. But the one thing that I can singularly say that is the same is that connection, that
Yeah.
connection being really trailblazed for that person.
Sure. So would you say then, Ethan, that the use of this modality led to an evolution of your own spiritual path? And if it has, like, how so?
Okay, so that's actually interesting. So in terms of the evolution of my spiritual path as a QHHT practitioner and just as somebody on the journey, it has definitely influenced my path. And so, to be able to be aware of all of this wealth of metaphysical knowledge, right? Like the past lives and all these other experiences to, the Pleiades or Andromeda or Atlantis or, all of these different places. But and this is something that I really work with my clients to make them know, is they're here right now in this life. So to not use that as an egoic distraction on the spiritual path, because it's very easy on the spiritual path to become distracted with all this other stuff, when really, is it making you a more loving person? Is it really strengthening your connection to the divine? Is it helping you live from that place? So it's really allowed me to notice those things within myself, when something is becoming a distraction, all of that sort of stuff, and really solidifying and crystallizing that connection within myself, because only then can I extend that to other people. So it's really, I would say, it's funny because you would think that, with all of this metaphysical knowledge, it would be very, like, very airy fairy, right? Because it's very abstract and all of this, but it's actually grounded me
I
into
get that.
really, yeah, and into really being firm in what is the spiritual path about, right? And of course it's different for everyone because everybody's on a different journey, but we all have that inner knowing at one point, at some point on our spiritual journey, and that is the connection with the divine.
Definitely. And I can honestly say that, well, this podcast, for instance, this is absolutely the thing that I've been, well, fighting, I guess, because this has been, it's been like, I think it was 14 months ago that I actually registered the name and
Oh wow, okay.
started the process. But then, I guess I'm just a chicken shit, and it took me a long time.
Yeah, but
But
here you are, right? Here
yes,
you
and I
are.
figured, there's so much more information that needs to get out there. And, it's kind of funny because I was talking, haha. I was communicating, if you will, with my guides, and because I had questioned about the name of this podcast, like, wow, we're really doing that, and they
Yeah.
said absolutely, because the people that I'm meant to connect with, this is how they would be like, really, it says wake the fuck up, like, okay, so let me just check this out and see what it's all about. But if it wasn't so in your face, that they wouldn't necessarily connect. And so,
Right.
I
Definitely.
mean, we're meant to
Yeah.
connect with who we're meant to connect with. And I know that even though I started the process so long ago, it evidently, it wasn't the right time. So for whatever reason, now it is. And, I'm really grateful, because this is the kind of stuff this stuff, like what you're doing, and other people that are doing like intuitive massage therapy and stuff like that. And just some of the other guests that I've already had on the show, this information needs to get out there. A lot of people don't even know stuff like this exists, that this is an
Right.
option for them.
And for myself personally, I've actually struggled with that specifically, right? Like knowing that there are people who aren't aware that there is something beyond them that they can turn to and ask for help and prayer and all of that. And something that I've realized though is that, like, it's okay to be sad, and from a healthy place of compassion, so yeah, it's very interesting, and to be able to be in a position to enable people to wake the fuck up into that, right? How
Yes.
cool is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And
I
I
just want to
think,
share, my appreciation for what you're doing, because I think it's absolutely wonderful.
well, thank you very much. Honestly, I really am honored to be able to facilitate this and bring together all you amazing people to share what it is you're doing, and how it can benefit people. So, I'm really happy to be able to do it. And even though I still get butterflies every time I hit that record button, it's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, I know I'll get over it, and things will be great. So, I really am grateful for you taking the time to, have this conversation with me. Is there anything in closing that you would like to share? Just
Hmm.
whether it's about QHHT or just this whole, waking the fuck up process in general?
I would like to share. Yeah, I do have and it might be a little lengthy, but I'll make sure it's not too long. And it's just, a message to the person on the spiritual path, right? And what I want to say is that, we're all on very different paths to, what the spiritual path is. So I feel something that I wish I would have known, is to let go of the expectation of what that looks like, and surrender to the will of the divine. And ooh, like, talk about that, right? So surrendering what our own egos think are best for us, and just allowing what's going to happen the way it needs to for us, and have the trust that that's going to happen, and being able to, eventually get to a place of having that inner knowing that the divine is within us. And I know for myself personally that I would catch myself like in a state of judgment, or, oh, like, I can't feel this emotion, I'm too spiritual, right? But being
Yeah.
able to respect, and this is something that one of the spiritual teachers I follow says, he says, respect the illusion, know the truth. And in saying that, knowing that we are all divine and we are all connected to this oneness, and that is, it's as simple as that, that is the truth. But to
Yes.
respect the illusion of the game we're playing and the human emotions we feel, and the things that may come up that we're like, oh my gosh, like what? So I just think it's important for people to know that it's okay to reach out to people for help,
Yep.
and I feel that, especially in our societal culture, I mean, it may be loosening up, but it still seems that there's shame around that, because we're so ingrained that independence is the way it should be. But I just want everyone to know that there are people there to support and help and assist and make their path easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And, part of why I think it's so important that there are people like you that are doing these types of, working within modalities like this to help people clear things is because, your generation is a little different. You're considerably younger than me, but my generation and the ones before me, we were taught that we weren't taught how to process our emotions. And, there was always that BS about big boys don't cry and, shit like that, that made men kind of, well, made people in general just kind of close down. And so we didn't know how to process all of that. And
Right,
because of
right.
that, it sits there in your body and it's all just, it's the whole process of, literally like an onion, peeling back the layers to get rid of all of the shit and get to the core and see, oh my God, I am worthy. I am this amazing, loving person. And, and well, my stance on religion. I don't, yeah, I'm not a fan
Yeah,
of
no,
organized
definitely.
religion. And it's just because
Yeah,
there's so much dogma around it that it doesn't allow you to, look within and actually connect to that source. It's like, oh, you have to do this and you have to do it this way and you have to, no, fuck that. It's not like that.
yeah, no, definitely.
So
And that's the thing that's so nice about spirituality, is the freedom that comes with not claiming a specific denomination or something like that.
yeah, because
Yeah,
it's,
definitely.
we can connect in our own way. And I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about what my process is. And I'll call it whatever I want. I'll call it God. I don't have a problem with that. I'll call it the universe. I'll call it source. I'll call it, you know
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, it's our own path. And but I'm just really grateful that you're out there and that you're doing this and you are so damn good at it and you care so much about the people that you're helping, that a lot of people are going to benefit and can have already benefited from working with you and will continue to do so. And
definitely.
it's you
Definitely. And
know
it's a true honor. It really is. And
I
I just know that for myself, having that integrity of really being aware of my divine connection and that with other people, but also respecting the illusion of where I may be coming from at a certain time or where they may be coming at a certain time. I just know that the integrity of a spiritual practitioner of any sort is so important. And, you
yes,
know, yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, mine is entirely different than yours. I do my readings, but so much information can come through when I'm really connected. I can get confirmation for people. I can, bring them ease and bring them closure, even, connecting with their past loved ones and things like that. And it's an honor for me to be able to do what I do, over and above doing this fun podcast,
Right. Yeah. No,
so
definitely. No,
yeah, so
definitely.
it's all amazing. I'm really, really grateful that you took the time to meet with me today, and I'm just super stoked. I intend to when I post the video or the audio here, when I post the show, I'm going to include all of your information on how anybody can reach out to you. That's one more question now. I know that a lot of your sessions, you do them in person, but this is something that you can actually facilitate remotely as well, or no?
So the quantum healing hypnosis, I do not facilitate virtually, just because of
Okay.
the regulations put upon us by the QHHA, like the Quantum Healing Hypnosis Academy.
Okay.
And I have nothing but respect and understanding of that. So maintaining that integrity and the legacy of Dolores Cannon is, of course, a priority to me. However,
Sure.
I do offer intuitive spiritual counseling and other modalities virtually, just not the quantum healing hypnosis technique.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, like I
Yeah.
said, I'm going to include, your contact information when I post the video or the audio, and
Yeah, definitely.
you
And
know,
really quickly, people can find me at my website at www.sacred, SACRED, soul, SOUL, works, WORKS.com. And that's just one word. And they can contact me or the office at 586-307-4424 or office at sacredsoulworks.com.
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much again, Ethan, for joining me. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And I hope you'll consider joining me again in the future. I would love to have you back
Definitely.
on.
I'm sure we
Awesome.
could have many amazing conversations.
Yes, we definitely could. And I would
Yes.
like to thank everyone who tuned in today. As always, I'm grateful for your presence. And I'll see you back here next Sunday with another episode as we continue to wake the fuck up.